Hey everyone, are you looking for a weekly fix of tabletop goodness? If so, then this is the show to watch. This week, our OnTableTop store is giving away a Kill Team Pariah Nexus expansion. It's got a team of Necrons, team of Space Marines, and some cool Necron terrain. Plus, it's a great way to get your hands on the new cool commander models. For your chance to win, make sure and like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and get a comment in down below. So join us as we journey through scary portals, try to defuse some exploding kittens, and fill some pits with snakes. The weekend starts now. Yes, indeed, peeps, it's Weekender time, and as always, I'm joined by the ever-lovely Ben and Jerry. I'm Lloyd, of course, but this week we also have Free.
Hi!
Has joined the team here at OnTableTop in the last few weeks. So great to have you on the show, Free. I believe you're going to be talking us through some news items and things that you've been looking into.
I am indeed.
Yeah.
Absolute pleasure to be joining you guys, and I cannot wait to get started and talk about all the lovely board games, card games, and miniature games that I've been looking at this week.
Your friend Ben, look Ben,
I have an ally.
I know, you're not alone anymore, Ben.
It's like
I have board games. I've got Tide of Iron.
it's like a proper divide here, Jerry, of blue versus
blue at the
everyone
top.
else.
Yeah.
We got
Makes
like
sense.
miniature gaming up here and board gaming down there.
You do, you've got backup now, Ben, you're not alone.
Yeah, well, on the miniature side of things, Jerry, I'll get it kicked off.
Yes.
Because we've been working with Corvus Belli and featuring their Infinity themed week.
Yeah. Carlos and the team over at Corvus Belli have been doing a super fantastic, great, sensational set of figures for the PanO, specifically the military orders, and they've been showcasing them throughout the week. And we've had some interesting videos on fluff, a bit of battle reports, which is just nothing but money shots, according to Carlos, and the miniatures themselves. So if people are interested in checking out what's coming for the military orders, then they should definitely dive in there. There's some superb looking figures, some of which bridge the gaps between various games. So a couple of the miniatures can be used for Code 1, although it is specifically N4 based. But we do have a Father Inquisitor, a Padre, who can be used in Aristea as well. So if you're interested in punching people in the face as a military order priest, then that is something that you can do with the figures they're releasing. And they're a terrific set. I mean, I'm a big fan of military orders anyway, because the Crusades are always good, clean family fun. And they've got a lot there, from the famous ones like the Hospitallers and the Knights of the Holy Sepulchre to people like St. Lazarus and the Knights of Santiago, who allegedly followed on from the Templars when the Templars were disbanded. So it's nice to see all of the military orders getting a show in there.
Do you think they have enough minis here? I mean, realistically, they only needed like 3 to go.
They only need 3 for a Crusade, yeah. And to be fair, the Knight of the Holy Sepulchre in the tag there is probably 3 by himself. So everything after that is just, it's just gravy all day long.
Absolutely.
But yeah, it's a superb set of miniatures. I do get the feeling that the motorized Knights of Montesa has that. Yeah, they have a real BMX bandit feel with the helmet. I don't know if I'm the only one getting that vibe, but it feels like they're wearing BMX helmets for doing motocross. And maybe it is just me. Maybe I'm a child of the 80s and I keep thinking of Angel Summoner and the BMX bandit. but yeah, they are a thing.
What if I just summon a horde of angels?
He can pop a wheelie. Why would you not want a Knight of Montesa to pop a wheelie?
Cool.
Oh, man. What a callback. What a callback.
Yeah, so if you're into that, come on over to OnTableTop and hit the Infinity section. You'll find it on the top now, but you'll also find it featured. If you're watching this on Friday and Saturday and Sunday, you will find it featured in a big red box, all the new Infinity content that's been coming. And I believe there's more stuff. If you're watching this on Friday night, they've maybe done it. Weren't they going to talk about stuff on the Friday?
There is a live Twitch stream on Friday. By the time this goes out, they'll already have had it, but you should be able to go to their Twitch channel, which will be linked somewhere around there-ish, to go and see what they were talking about. It will be, because Carlos is chatting, which means it may go beyond what they should actually be talking about, because like a leaky bucket, he can't hold water. So, you never know what's going to actually trickle out during that live stream.
Right. I'm going to get stuck in with Indies of the week.
Yes.
Because we're going to do 2.
We are.
Why are we doing 2 indies this week?
I know, I'm bucking a trend. And I'm also kind of not talking about miniatures, but in reality I am. Okay.
I hope I'm not having an influence on you, Ben.
These are board game magazines. Welcome to Cardboard. No. So this week we got the release of issue 1 of the HeroHammer fanzine, which was created by the guys at the Crown and Command podcast. And this spurred me on to think about not only just showcasing these guys as an indie in of themselves, but also another sort of fanzine that's been created as well. But we'll get to that in a little bit. Starting off with the one that we've got here, though, the HeroHammer fanzine, as you can see there, is a callback to classic Warhammer fantasy battles. Looking back to sort of 5th edition and 6th edition and that kind of thing, when heroes reigned supreme on the battlefield and armies were about a third of the size that they are now. And also probably weighed 4 times as much because of the metal involved.
Lead was great. You are correct.
Anybody else getting the feels? Is this supposed to give me the hobby feels from like 1980s then, is it?
This is nostalgia central. Yes.
Nostalgia feels you're getting there.
It's 10 cc's of nostalgia straight into the jugular. But it's not just Warhammer, as we see there. We've got Manowar. They talk a bit about 2nd edition 40k, so the very, very early days as well throughout it. So really what they've gone for is, rather than just going 5th edition Warhammer, they've literally carved off early to mid 90s and went, this was the peak. This was the pinnacle. It was all downhill after this, so let's just stick with this and get Goblin Green Rims on everybody's base and go from there. And it's a fascinating selection of stuff from
it really is
a bunch of Scandinavians and a Dutch who've come together to put this fanzine together in an incredibly professional way. I hope they haven't blown their load in one go.
Well, issue 2 is in the works, apparently, as well. So,
but this is almost 100-page fanzine.
Exactly,
and as you can see, you've got like a Kev Goblin Master Adams article there, who more or less defined what goblins are for fantasy tabletop gaming, because it wasn't just Citadel that he sculpted for. He sculpted for, I think, Heartbreaker and Grenadier and possibly even Reaper. So many goblins have come out via Kev from all the companies. It didn't matter who you were buying in the 90s, you were buying Kev's idea of a goblin. But that magic item drafting is a particularly interesting one. Their podcast is called Crown of Command, which, as anybody knows, was pretty much standard especially in goblin armies, and it does seem to be very goblin
the magic items,
because it gave you leadership 10 unmodified, so it was like default. So the idea of going back and playing the older version of a game, but adding a drafting mechanic in, so you're not both having the Crown of Command with the Griffin Standard, with the Stone Banner, with the Ruby Chalice, because you've had to pass the deck back and forward and draft what you're actually taking, is an actual genius idea to modernize an old game in a different way. I also approve.
This also makes me we'll come to another point as part of this magazine, is that obviously they've looked back at those sort of older editions of Warhammer Fantasy, but they've also been putting in some sort of fan amalgamations of other things as well. So there's an entire section dedicated to Warhammer Renaissance, which not only looks at that period and that edition of Warhammer, but also brings in lots of different things from other editions of Warhammer at the same time to try and make like the greatest version of it, which I think is really nice, while also still maintaining that core feel of Warhammer fantasy. And you are right, this is absolutely packed with goblins, but also lots of dwarves, because dwarves are amazing. So.
Dwarves are amazing. That halfling army is amazing. I was going to swear there, but I didn't. I'd like to point out that I managed to rate myself in there. So you're
we can fit in an amaze balls. That'll be
amaze balls. Yeah, that is an amaze balls set. Not least of which because he has a Marauder Giant, which was possibly one of the best giants ever made. But it's a converted Marauder giant, so he's changed the layout of the hands, the weapon they're holding, and has a bird balanced on one of his fingers that's sort of chatting to him. I think there's a better picture of the page before.
Yeah, well, I'm browsing like an online version of it. I'm sure there's a PDF version you can download.
Yes, you can just download it as a PDF and view it in your normal PDF viewer of choice.
And then that would
print
have
it out.
higher res images and stuff probably.
Yeah, because I know at least one person who's already printed this out. So I mean, so just seeing that old fella back on the tabletop is nice. I mean, I could put one on the tabletop, but it would require me digging through my collection, and who's got time for that? I don't.
But it is a monster issue. Look at this.
Yeah, it's huge.
Is this really gonna be monthly? Because a lot of fan magazines aren't necessarily monthly. Is this like a quarterly thing or what?
It's going to be whenever it's ready.
Yeah.
Whenever it's ready. That's the way to go.
That is the most sensible way to go. There are 2 battle reports as well, so.
Yeah. Or is it whenever you're ready?
Well, that is also true. Yeah.
No, because I'm ready for the next one immediately. Yeah. I've already been through this. Weirdly, it came up. I just had a conversation with peers from the community about Oldhammer because he's a big fan of earlier than this, and we were talking about possibly doing some articles together and maybe getting involved with some creators who work on the Oldhammer side of things because it's so popular. 15 minutes later, I got notification that this was published, and I was the 3rd person on this page. There's now been close to 7,000. It's been less than a week. So, yeah, I'm done, dusted, and ready to move on. However, they do have quite a lot of contributors already, and they're
looking for more.
So. All the details are in there, even if it's things like I've got a really nice Oldhammer style army that I want to show off, then you can send them photos so they'll
do galleries and everything.
And if you've got interesting ideas for articles, then you can do those as well. So it's definitely, I'm not going to say it's a coming thing because the Oldhammer community has really sprung massively in the past couple of years already. So it's probably about time that we've seen somebody delve into this.
So it's going to be specifically which edition of Warhammer are we talking about?
I don't like.
Have they isolated if you're doing this particular game where it's this edition or that edition?
They have not. They've literally said it's the things that interest them from the early to mid 90s. So it's round 5th edition, maybe borderline into 6th. Definitely stops before they hit 7th and 8th.
Just before I got into Warhammer Fantasy, I think this was.
But the fact that they're going for Man of War, it only had 1 edition, so that's simple enough. 40k 2nd edition, so that's good because I think 3rd was 98. So they haven't nailed their colours to mass. They haven't said this is in, this is out. I imagine if it's interesting to you, interesting to them, it probably has a place in there. If you're trying to do an article on the best meta for Age of Sigmar, probably a little bit. But reach out to them. All the contact details are there. Let them know what you're planning on doing.
And if you want to troll them, send them articles saying stuff like Confrontation was better than Warhammer. Fan magazine.
I think it's probably going to be one of those things, a little bit like 24 magazine, which has come out over the last couple of years as well, which is going to be very much a kind of love letter.
Do you mean 28?
28 magazine, not 24, because 28 is the mill.
It's the mill. Because 24 had Jack Bauer in it, and it was different.
Yes, that's true.
If that was a magazine, that would.
You have to read it in 24 hours or less. But yeah, so 28 magazine is going to be a really it's a fantastic magazine. And I think that's probably going to sort of fill this kind of gap for Oldhammer as well at the same time, I think. And as you say, a massive step down nostalgia street, especially in the layout of everything.
Even in the basing style, that basing style died out. I've seen videos recently on YouTube of people going, how to do the classic basing, and I was like, I really want to do the classic basing now.
There's a painting guide in there, how to paint a goblin in the classic style, but it uses the modern colors.
Yeah.
And I was looking at that and was going, that's very interesting. Although if you want to go the whole hog, you can just go to Coat d'Arms and buy the original colors. And therefore you don't have to worry about trying to match new stuff.
They've mixed up the originals. That's cool.
Yeah. They're using the current crop of GW paints, mix moot green with Iandan yellow and highlight the nose and stuff. It makes sense to people.
I've gone looking for the painting guide here, but the thing's so bloody big I can't find it.
Oh yeah, yeah. It was before Doctor the Vikings Chop Shop, and like I say, there's about 12 guys who all get a bio at the start, and you may recognize some, you may not recognize others. But it's interesting because they've based this initial magazine off a lot of stuff that they've done via the Crown of Command podcast, because they have a community there already who are interested in this sort of thing. So it's just another avenue that you can reach into. I mean, that would have been the old page for White Dwarf, 6 people working on it.
Yeah.
Then you're flipping the page and you're going, oh, there's more. There's Dave Lister. Not that Dave Lister, despite his photo.
Not this one. No.
Yeah.
But yeah, you need that amount of people because people have full-time jobs, and then you're doing this as essentially another part of your hobby.
Yeah.
And magazines are just horrendous amounts of work.
As we found out, yeah.
The great thing about a magazine is, if you're doing it professionally, is you can work at it all month long, and you try to get 3 issues ahead and stuff like that. So from that perspective, it's good to know you've got goals. Whereas what we do, everything shifts day in, day out. They're both tremendous amounts of work, but in a different fashion. But don't underestimate it, peeps. And that's why they've gone down this route of, it'll be ready when it's ready. That's it.
Stepping away from Oldhammer, there's also another magazine that I wanted to highlight, and actually came out with its 10th issue quite recently as well. So this is from Tom, Damien, and the rest of the crew that are part of the Great British Hobby League and that kind of thing, that have all sort of been working behind the scenes to bring the world of Middle-earth back to the tabletop for a lot of people. And this is SBG Magazine.
Now, the first one we looked at was free.
Mm-hmm.
Is this SBG? Is it free to get your hands on as well?
So the every single issue of the magazine is available as a PDF free. The first 5 you can just click and download straight away.
Oh,
the rest of them you have to. Yep.
Hey, look at that!
The rest of them you have to email them. Their email is on the site, and they'll send you a PDF version as well. You can also donate to them, and they will send you a physical copy, just like one of these. Oh,
showing off, huh?
Plastic.
But hold that up again, because it's like a proper magazine. Because when you said
magazine, yeah.
Because when you told me there'll be a physical version, I'm thinking, all right, so something they've winged out on their printer and stapled together or something. But no, this is actual proper print.
Proper quality. And one of the great things about this as well is that, pretty much like with what we saw for HeroHammer, the photography throughout these is stunning. It's the kind of level of photography that you would have seen in White Dwarf and that kind of thing, where they've set up proper tabletops. They've got people involved to make massive, huge vistas and dioramas and everything like that. And much like with HeroHammer, it's very much a kind of love letter to not only classic White Dwarf, but also Lord of the Rings in general and Middle-earth. And as people know, I'm quite the fan of Middle-earth.
Yeah, I am too. There's tons of content in this. This is just as big as the other one, to be honest. It's growing and going. There's so much stuff to get through.
Yeah, and it's an interesting one in terms of theme and that kind of thing, because over the 10 issues, what they've tended to do is focus in on either a particular moment from one of the films or a particular battle, for example. And then they've tried to make that kind of like the overarching theme for the issue. And then within that, they have tactics articles, because these guys are fully on board with all the big tournaments that have been happening for Lord of the Rings and Middle-earth strategy battle game over the last couple of years. There's painting guides, there's sculpting guides for making your own miniatures and personalizing them as well, doing things like building spiders and all sorts of things. There's terrain guides and everything too. And then there's all the really nice sort of like opinion pieces as well, where they go back through stuff and they start to talk about how they got started in the hobby. What were their first miniatures that they picked up for Middle-earth and Lord of the Rings? Was it the original Fellowship of the Rings box, or was it something before that, and that kind of thing? And they've really, really put a lot of love and effort into this to make it a really good read, but also something that's quite important for those people that want to dive in and actually start playing the game as well.
This is great. I've just seen above with the Lego and having a look at the different ball games, the Trivial Pursuit. So this is just for any Tolkien fan to dip into having a look at what miniature games and what Middle-earth looks like.
Is this another it'll be done when it's done, don't ask us?
Yeah, so they tend to, I was going to say it's seasonal. So they kind of do like one at the start of the year and one at the end, kind of like a winter and then maybe a spring edition. But then things fluctuate depending on sort of how their real life world but they're real world jobs and all that kind of thing as well, as you might imagine.
Yeah.
But as I say, they put a lot of effort into each of these, and it's when it's ready, it'll come out, kind of thing.
Because I see there's both an April Fool's special and an Advent special.
There is, yes, yeah. One of the latest issue that they did, actually, which you won't be able to view in PDF format, but
I think I can click some of it if it's this one.
I don't know. The latest one is the Return
one.
of the King one. So as you can see here, here's the front cover. So they did the Return of the King. So it's the Battle of Pelennor Fields.
Hold on, I can't. Let's see that again.
There we go.
Flashed out too quick.
So look, the new 300s models, which were amazing, came out last year, was it? I think those guys did.
Yeah.
And then the massive Army of the Dead, which will impress you there, Lloyd, of course.
Yeah, because I got loads of those. It's like the easiest to paint army, and I got loads of them, and I've painted none of them.
And then, you know how I said that they do like completely over the top battle reports? That is just a portion of what they did as part of this. So that's like 8 Murmurkill Oliphants there, alongside all the Rohirrim. And then they have a huge army of orcs and the Army of the Dead as well.
I don't think there are enough Rohirrim.
Master the Rohirrim.
Yeah. You can watch that. You can play it on the tabletop and cry like you do in the films on. That's the... Well, that's what I do anyway.
I cry when the film's on
They still count as one.
Because I'm like, oh my god, 3 hours, I'm going to have to sit through this.
God, you're a lightweight, Lloyd. Lightweight.
Cried Return of the King in 5 hours.
Nope.
not the 9-hour cut of Sam walking away from Hobbit.
What was it? Yeah, so Tom and Damien, who are kind of like the main driving force behind this, they also have on YouTube they've got things like the Palantir podcast where they go through stuff as well, a little bit like with the guys from Crown and Command. They also, as I say, have worked with people as part of this kind of Great British Hobby League that exists, which is kind of a really nice community that basically brought Middle Earth back to the forefront of Games Workshop's sort of like focus, really. Like a couple of years ago, well, maybe a few more than that, Lord of the Rings and that kind of thing was kind of dying a death. It sort of shortly after The Hobbit, really.
Yeah, hadn't been available from GW directly for a long time, so everybody was having to sort of pay scalper prices on Fleabay.
Yeah. But because of the work that people like Tom and Damien and the rest of the people that are involved with the Great British Hobby League did, running tournaments like Ardacon, for example, that is held every year, which is a huge tournament for Lord of the Rings players, and sort of like exhibition and that kind of thing. That put that back at the forefront of Games Workshop's mind, and then that's why we've been seeing things like the books coming back out and the re-release of all of the story sort of narrative things as well for the scenarios and things, the new miniatures and the new edition of the game and that kind of thing. I'm sure they would say, oh no, it wasn't us, but they're just being polite. I think they genuinely had a huge impact on what was happening, not just here in the UK, but across the world as well, really.
Yeah, there's some...
We hosted one.
We did,
Sam, at the OTT Towers. So
we did.
That was a combination of the British Hobbit League and their sister group, the Irish Hobbit League. So people came up from all points south and then descended on Coleraine over a weekend to batter the hell out of each other. Because I remember Sam being particularly fond of getting all of his hobbits out on the table.
It has had a bit of a fan revival. I've seen a few YouTube channels that focus primarily on Lord of the Rings and Middle Earth stuff.
Yeah.
Am I having a brain fart, or is there some sort of Middle Earth thing in production is there a TV show or something? Amazon's working on that.
Yeah, it's supposed to be the most expensive TV show to be costly. So
it's called Lord of the Rings, but it's not Lord of the Rings. I think they've mislabeled it simply to drag in the people who don't know the books but know the films.
Yeah, set in the Second Age apparently. So
yeah. It's going to be fascinating to see how that comes together. So.
Jeff is desperately looking for his own version of Game of Thrones. and he is willing to throw money at any massive book series of fantasy to do so. So we've got Lord of the Rings coming, and we've also got Wheel of Time coming. And you throw enough against the wall, and something will stick. It's not a. I'm hoping he doesn't do a disservice to either of them, because
very much so.
Amazon have done some very good adaptations of books, and they've done some very bad adaptations of books, and you just don't know what you're going to get until you sit down and start viewing. So,
well, at least he's doing something.
It's only because he's not allowed to kill anyone. I think if he was allowed to kill people, Jeff would be happy enough to do that. Wouldn't even worry about what Amazon's doing. He wants to kill people, and he's not allowed, and it kills him. He watches Hard Target with Jean-Claude Van Damme all the time and wishes he was Lance Henriksen.
Is this because Bezos actually sits in a chair with a cat?
Oh, yeah.
That turns around to reveal himself.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Very much so. We're never
just like to point out to all the websites hosted by Amazon's back end. We praise you, Jeff Bezos.
You mean like us?
Yep.
If it goes badly wrong, we'll all just move to Parler. Is that not a thing?
That's it. Well,
in the end, though, even if things start to shut down because we've destroyed the website through calling Bezos the Butcher, you can download some really nice magazines.
The Butcher, you've even named him now.
See, we all know, deep down, he wants to kill a guy.
As I say,
Maybe like,
back on track for a second.
You watch what you're doing there, or I'll call BB. BB!
But yes, if you want to pick up these fanzines, as you were saying, HeroHammer is available for free right now to download as a PDF and just read online if you want to. And SBG Magazine, first 5 issues, just download them straight away. Just click them and get them downloaded onto your PC. Or you can email them to get your hands on PDF versions of the rest of the issues they've done and the special and that kind of thing. And you can also get hard copies as well for your library. So yeah, very cool stuff.
I'm really happy to see fanzines come back.
Yes.
It's been too long.
Yeah.
The internet interrupted fanzines for 20 years, and now, thankfully, they're back. People go, you know what? People want to be able to sit down and read this stuff.
Which is weird, but considering the internet is like the perfect platform for a fanzine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Internet's got to ruin everything, hasn't it?
Very much so, yeah.
Coming to you from the center of Northwestern Europe. Covering board games, war games, card games, and all that you love. It's the news.
So we're diving into some sci-fi news to begin with as we look at the new collection of terrain from the folks at Kromlech. They have been building on their Nekropolis Immortal Cities collection with an astounding amount of new HDF and resin kits for you to use on the tabletop, maybe if you're going to be exploring the grim dark future of Warhammer 40,000.
Cool.
The main sort of focus of this terrain is on creating effectively a Necron-style tomb world or tomb complex, I guess you'd say, on the tabletop. And they have done some pretty fantastic centerpieces, like, for example, the Lost Pyramid, as you're seeing there. All of the different elements of this, in the most part, are made out of HDF, so it's all wood-based. But then you have then got a couple of little pieces of terrain that have got plastic elements that can be attached to it as well. And then you've also got resin pieces, which we'll look at later on too.
I'm sure these balls are probably plastic. Were they resin drop-in balls, plastic balls?
I would imagine those are resin.
Simply they may be resin, yeah.
Simply because they haven't utilized the fact that it's see-through. Mm-hmm. Because the plastic they're mostly going with is,
as you can see there,
sort of laser cut acrylic, so it's still relatively flat, whereas the curves tend to be the resin pieces.
Yeah, and one of the interesting things about this, let's just before that check out the Annihilator Beamer. That is an amazing
let's just
piece.
Take a moment.
So a HDF kit in the round, but then the middle section is held together by the acrylic. That's just awesome. That's brilliant.
That is genius, and something I've not seen before, which surprises me because you'd imagine you would have seen that before. Yeah. It's a very simple idea. Yeah.
The thing that I actually quite like about the terrain in the main is that while a lot of other terrain that's been designed for the Necrons kind of has the designs on it, and that's fair enough, they've actually layered this stuff so that you've got the underneath and then the front layers and that kind of thing, and you can see all the wiring and the gizmos and gadgets going on behind the scenes where all the gausses flowing throughout the buildings and that kind of thing as well. And it creates this really nice effect across the entire collection, which I think is really, really cool. Yeah. The other thing as well to bear in mind with this is that while there are obviously some fairly massive pieces in it, a lot of this stuff could be very easily painted with just airbrushes or rattle cans if you wanted to. You get in with that, undercoat it black or whatever, or grey, and then just go in with a different lighter colour or just grey over the top of black, and then shade things up with greens and that kind of thing. And you'd have very, very good-looking terrain incredibly quickly.
Mm.
It's really cool.
I'd be tempted just to spray it black, like you say, and then just get a metallic spray can and dust it. Job done.
Yeah.
And you're up and running.
If you go back to any of them really, but the walkway or the multi-story car park, I can't remember what it was called. Yeah, the walkway. One of the most exciting things is the way they've done the curves.
Yeah.
Because you can see resin parts and you see acrylic parts added into HDF kits all the time. But rarely do you see nice sweeping curves like that.
Mm-hmm.
I imagine they've got one of those sort of what they call living hinges on the back of it, where it's designed that it will be cut in such a way on the reverse side that you can bend it and get those. Because
What, you think this is HDF?
Oh, I'm positive that's HDF. Yeah,
And that's the wee plug.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, we should be getting some of this into the studio fairly soon, so it'll be really nice to have a look at it and see the kind of details without the paint and stuff on it as well. But in the main, everything that you see here is like perfect for creating those themed tabletops. The other interesting thing I really like about this terrain as well is that, like, a lot of people are like, well, I don't collect Necrons, why would I buy this? And I was like, aha. But the Necrons are practically on every world in some form. So having them be there with like a strange edifice that has been set up, like, for example, that massive portal, the summoning portal, including that on your tabletops adds a narrative element to things that goes beyond the fights between orcs and space marines, for example.
No, Napoleon wasn't fighting the Egyptians when they went to Egypt.
Exactly.
Likewise,
fighting the Necron.
Likewise, you don't need to worry about who's fighting who, where, if it happens to be some sort of old world. It's also very good if you've got Stargate.
Yeah.
Just throwing it out there because Stargrave's coming, and Hassle-Free do a really nice set of Stargate miniatures.
They do, yeah.
So yeah.
There's also some statues that have come out as well.
Yep. So the statues are some of their resin pieces that they've made. Suitably aged, as you can see. Again, would be very easy to paint using airbrush techniques and that kind of thing as well. You could also go in, obviously, with dry brushing and that kind of thing too. Maybe a bit of washing here and there. Using some of the technical paints from Games Workshop to get the effect of the rust and that kind of thing on them as well. Yeah. So, but yeah, brilliant stuff. The thing, some of the obelisks in particular that we're looking at now, they're really nice in that. Like, some of them I feel very static, like, for example, the royal one here. But if you scroll down, there's the scarab one. And I like the idea that they actually move around the battlefield and sort of provide like buffs and debuffs to different units as they're walking around. So you've got terrain that is moving, cover that is moving around, and you're trying to anticipate where it's going to go and sort of take out Necrons before they can get buffed by the pillars and that kind of thing, which would be really cool. But yeah, stunning pieces as well. And then you've got more stuff here that includes the sort of acrylic energy and the Gauss energy that's sort of powering all these different devices. But as well as that, they've also done some kind of basing and sort of scatter bits as well. So you see them here. So they've done crystals and that kind of thing that are very synonymous with the Necrons. And you can use these to decorate bases or stick them around the larger pieces of terrain if you wanted to put them onto a larger sort of base as well, perhaps. And then you've got obviously the crystal stacks there as well for creating a fortress of solitude.
You went Superman.
Tomb. Yeah.
I was just going straight to Elim for Star Wars.
Wow,
just going to the crystal caves in there.
Yeah.
So.
But you can also see some of the slightly more modular nature of things. So this is utilizing the Lost Pyramid with the obelisks, but in a different fashion to create these like massive structures. And then in the other image that's below that one, you'll also see one of their other kind of more modular kits. So this is for creating base layers for the pyramids and also larger things like wall structures or maybe sort of containment areas. Each of those different block sections is separate.
Yeah. I believe there is walls with this set though as well that we just don't have the pictures of.
Yeah, there are some other bits and pieces in there as well over on their web store, but you can go and check those out too. But yeah, very cool.
Yeah,
so this means you can do
range.
you can do multi-layered stuff, which is always important when it comes to wargaming. I think having that kind of height to things means that you're not always playing on that one kind of like that flat field. You have a couple more tactical options to try and consider when you're playing games, which is always good. So.
We ran a campaign day for 40k many moons ago, where I wrote the rules for Necron Tomb World and really upset a lot of people with what was going on those tables. If I'd had access to this, I'd have upset all of them.
You would have given them 18 inches of pain.
I would have given them 18 inches of pain. As it was, I gave most of them quite a lot of pain.
Look at this monster.
But on a more sort of subtle 8 to 10 inches in some respects.
I mean, compared to the miniature as well.
Yeah.
If you want cyclopean architecture for your ancient civilization, then that's the way to go.
I'm just waiting for Timothy Dalton to trip over and land with his mouth.
Oh, no.
That. Yeah.
Oh.
It hurts.
Lovely.
But yeah, so Kromlech's Nekropolis Immortal City Terrain is available right now. Definitely go and check it out, especially if you're a grimdark sci-fi fan.
Moving on, Pariah, I think you're going to be giving us an update on some Arkham stuff.
I am indeed. There is a new expansion that's been announced from Fantasy Flight Games called Secrets of the Order. And I love it when I'm able to explore new places in Arkham. This is why I love Arkham Horror, because it's loads of new places that I can visit, especially being stuck inside at the moment. I feel like I am going somewhere. And their expansion gives us new scenarios, more locations, more monsters, and, of course, brand new investigators to play as. And we head over to the eerie town of French Hill. But the one thing I love about this expansion is you're not capped just at French Hill. You're not just going to another location. You're going to a new reality. And this new reality, you get to explore the deep, dark depths of the underworld. So you can imagine what kind of monsters you'll be meeting there. With the 4 new investigators that are coming, and they're ready to join the party too, we've got a nice logical soldier on the way. And interestingly enough, an aviatrix that's joining the fray. So that's going to be quite interesting. There's 3 new scenarios coming, and including restless spirits and conspirers and monsters, you'll get an opportunity to see what's lurking in the deep dark of underwear. Did I just say underwear instead of underwear?
But don't worry, that's staying in.
Come to our world,
deep
Free.
darks of the underwear, yeah?
I imagine. Often on this show, there's quite a lot of deep darks of the underwear, but it's mostly Warren, to be fair. It's interesting seeing where they're going with Arkham as well, because FFG have done some beautiful stuff for the Arkham board game, and I do like the fact that they keep adding not just investigators but new, I suppose, realities. Because I'm a slight Cthulhu fan. I'm a massive Cthulhu fan, so just being able to pull people from New England or wherever they happen to be set in and push them into different realities to have to deal with things like what looks like a gug on the front cover of that going mental. We don't always see the same sort of creatures that people are having to deal with all the time.
Yeah,
I imagine at some point they'll build up and just get cats to take people to the moon, which is what I live for. Don't laugh. The cats and cateth is particularly creepy, and you should always watch out for cats in any Cthulhu-based game. So
the thing, as you say, like they've really gone in on kind of expanding out this Cthulhu Arkham sort of series of things. So obviously we have Arkham Horror in the sense of the board game, but then there's also the card game as well, which has been doing really, really well. I know that Asmodee are coming up with another digital version of Arkham Horror to dive into as well. So there are many, many opportunities to dive into this kind of weird world with the guys at FFG. And that's, always nice to see new investigators and interesting things to do. I still remember back to playing 6-hour games of Eldritch Horror and diving into that and having a lot of fun with it. So very cool to see them do more stuff for Arkham Horror as well.
One thing I really like about, there is a new keyword added called Shrouded. So what's really great about this is you have no idea what you're getting into until you're in it, because all of your enemy, the monster abilities, are hidden. So until you get into it, you have no idea what you're going to get into whatsoever.
Which makes sense for a Cthulhu game.
Yeah. The new pack comes with 130 new encounters and event cards, and the new investigation just gives you a chance to go through the portal from... what do
you mean go through the portal? Who would go through that portal? If I did that, I wouldn't be like, my first idea is go through the portal.
No, fair,
I know.
fair,
Go through the
first step
portal,
is-
and even better, waiting on the other side is the Underworld Lord. So
Yeah.
you can't lose. So you've got a chance to feel really that fear. That's exactly what it is. Arkham Horror of Arkham Horror. That is.
That does sound scary. I go through the portal and I end up in a giant pair of underwear.
Yeah. Not the deep, depth, dark of your underwear. Yeah. That's what
That
you do.
does sound scary.
Not your underwear, Lloyd. Somebody else's underwear. It's already been used. It's not
Oh
been
no!
cleaned.
No, very, very cool. I really like the fact this kind of shrouded mechanic, because it's always something that I always find with a lot of card games, and a lot of board games, is that you can sometimes, especially in a co-op context, is that sometimes you'll have the alpha gamer syndrome going on, where people are like, oh no, we should definitely do this or this or this. And you're like, well, yeah, that sounds like the best thing to do. Let's do it. But because you've got the shrouded sort of stats for the creatures, everything's a little bit of a mystery for all people at the table. So you can't just make solid plans all the way through.
Yeah.
So it's going to be very cool seeing how that plays out. Very nice. Yeah.
Cool.
No setting up combos.
No setting
Just
up
because
combos,
you know
exactly.
what's coming.
You know who we're talking about, Justin.
Yeah. Speaking of things that are coming up, Baron's War. Baron's War,
Yes.
Jerry. Baron's War. There's news about
I
that.
don't know what you're talking about. So.
So Jerry has managed to resist the Baron's War apparently for the last couple of months, but Wave 2 for the Baron's War and is now available over on the Footsore Miniatures and Games web store. So they've come up with, this is everything from their second Kickstarter, with a couple of bits and pieces here and there added on as well. So you've got new characters in there, for example, like Prince Louis. But then you've also got new knights, footmen, men-at-arms, peasants, everything you could need for making your war bands for use in the Baron's War game by the guys at Warhost as well. And they're sort of like little conglomerate of merry gentlemen. But that leads me on, interestingly, to talking about some other merry gentlemen as well. Because on top of the kind of the knights and the soldiers, you've also got
Just looking at this.
Robin Hood, Friar Tuck, Will Scarlet, Little John, and Maid Marian. Amazing miniatures. I bloody love Robin Hood. So it's fantastic to see these coming out. It's really, 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 really cool.
A bit
He's
light
a bit
around
thin,
the
isn't
mid.
he?
Yeah.
Oh, this is Friar Tuck.
Yeah,
That's Friar Tuck, yeah.
Oh.
Bit of green stuff added to the midriff there.
It's not exactly Maid Marian and her merry men, is it?
It's not the classic CBBC show, no. But man, I love that. That was so good. That's a blast from the past. Oh, Pancake Day! It's Pancake Day. Everybody ready? It's Pancake Day. But anyway, I'm digressing.
Really?
Some really fantastic. There's some really fantastic miniatures from the second wave of the Baron's War. There, fantastically painted up. A lot of these anyway by HVM Workbench, not HMV. The dog didn't paint
The
these.
dog did.
Yeah.
No opposable thumbs. He's not going to be able to pick up a brush. That'll be madness.
But yeah, this is just like the top of what they have for the Baron's War right now. There is a huge range that they did for this that has been made possible by Kickstarter backers and that kind of thing. And you can seriously dive into making some very unique war bands with the miniatures that they've got over on their web store.
Yeah. And if you're playing the Baron's War specifically, Robin Hood and his merry men, or Maid Marian and her merry men, depending on your choice of merry menning, are actually a war band in and of their own right. So you can just run Robin Hood against the Sheriff of Nottingham if you fancy playing that style of thing with the Baron's War.
I was thinking of a really interesting scenario idea where you still play as your barons and your lords, but Robin Hood and his band of merry men are kind of like a wandering monster kind of thing.
Like an AI. They could just appear.
Yeah, they could turn up and just ruin the day for everyone. And so your barons have to work together to try and deal with this bloody outlaw who keeps stealing all their objectives and stuff.
What you need, Ben, is a love child between this Robin Hood stuff for Baron's War and Burrowers and Badgers that gets you Robin Hood, the Disney movie.
Oh,
I do have a miniature that I painted as Robin Hood.
And away he goes.
Is it a
Is
fox?
Show and tell.
It's not a fox, unfortunately, no. But where are you? Where are you?
What I need you most.
Now I've got a question. What are they doing at Oathsworn if they're not making Fox
Here he is.
Robin Hood?
Look at him. Look at him. I painted him up to be just like Robin Hood. He's my Robin Hood otter.
Oh.
Yeah. Derailing the show to talk about birds and badgers is always good.
Really?
Whose fault was that? Oh, mine.
Yours, yeah.
Put this on yourself.
Ben is blameless on that one.
Exactly.
Yeah, the Barnes War stuff is particularly nice. And
But
there's
more, isn't there?
Yeah, in 10 days' time. No.
Yeah, so they're going to be coming to Kickstarter on the 21st of March with Death and Taxes, which is Baron's War Part 3 for the Kickstarter.
Oh.
And as we were talking about this previously, there is going to be a Sheriff of Nottingham as part of this collection, which is the real-life Sheriff of Nottingham.
Not Alan Rickman. Is that
not
what you're
Alan
saying?
Rickman.
Because I think you'll find Alan Rickman.
I'll carve your heart out with a spoon. Why a spoon? Because it'll hurt more. Very good. But yes, Pierre is on the way. And apparently he was a really dastardly man. And his family was even cited in the Magna Carta very specifically so that they would be taken away from their positions of power within England.
Right.
Yeah.
So we don't want this guy. Who's in charge here? He is, but really shouldn't be.
We've also got these the Knight Templar that got previewed as well recently too. They are visiting the priest of St. Oswald to pay respects to him.
Look at that. There's 3 of them.
That's what you need for Crusade, and at that point, that is probably where my resolve will crumble. The Barons, because I've been very, very good. I've been so good. I've been so good. I've not gone near them. But about a year, I'm going to say actually more, 2 years ago, they sculpted a Hospitaller based on the King of Jerusalem film. What's it called? Ridley Scott.
Oh, Kingdom of Heaven.
Kingdom of Heaven.
Yeah.
So the Hospitaller who accompanies Liam Neeson and is his advisor, they did a model of him. And it was a freebie 1 month, and then they never revisited the Holy Lands. It's like, are you toying with me, Hob Day? Because I know where you live / work. So they've not gone anywhere near the Crusade since, and now they're just going, and here's some Knights Templar.
Yep. And here's some terrain that has nothing to do with going on Crusade as well.
Yeah, so this has actually been provided by Lion Tower Miniatures, who do 3D sculpting work. So this will be available as STL files if you want to print them off at home. But if you're an old fuddy-duddy like me, you can also just get them in pure resin.
God bless.
And put them onto your tabletop and get them painted in that way as well.
Yeah. That stuff's really nice, especially that particular setup. If you are going to go the whole hog and start throwing out some sort of Robin Hood like things, then you could replay Ivanhoe with your Knights Templar and that setup in particular. You can just do all of your Templars fighting knights in England, and just replay that. Yeah. BBC did a very good adaptation of it. Nothing like the book, but a good adaptation nonetheless. Just saying.
But watch out for the Kickstarter and more stuff coming soon for that. Yeah, very cool.
Moving swiftly on, we've got stuff coming up from the Exploding Kittens crowd.
One thing that I absolutely love, this caught my eye this week, was that everybody knows Exploding Kittens. And I don't know about you guys, but one thing I've actually really missed in quarantine, and I didn't think I'd ever say this because I'm not much of a socialite, but is I've missed party games. I've missed sitting there playing fast-paced party games, and I've genuinely missed playing Exploding Kittens. So I was delighted to find out that they've recently released Quarantine Kittens. And the best thing about Quarantine Kittens is that you don't need to buy anything extra. So all they have done is they have adapted Exploding Kittens to allow you to play the game over Zoom, over Facebook, over WhatsApp, or whatever platform that you want to play on. And the great thing is that you don't need to buy anything. And, well, other than having the other person to play with, because that might... You've got to have your set, they have their set, and you take out these cards and you're able to play the game exactly as you would, but over a camera. And I think this is absolutely fantastic that designers of games are adapting them now to the new age that we live in. And it is great to see just such a nice party game. And when I played this with my family, it wasn't obviously the same, but it was nice to have something, a party game to play back as well.
Yeah, copies up there, just out of reach.
I was going to say, I totally agree with you with the idea of being able to like play stuff through things like Zoom or Google Meet and that kind of thing, because even though things are starting to go in the right direction when it comes to being socially distanced and that kind of thing, I still like the idea that maybe on a Friday night or whatever, if you're not going out, sit down with your friends and do this over the internet and just have a little bit of fun. I think it's really, really cool to have this kind of thing exist out there, because the last year has showed us that a lot of stuff can be done through things like Tabletopia and just using webcams, for example, as well, as you say. So having more of that is always good. And party games are a blast anyway. Just like kids.
And if people haven't seen Exploding Kittens before, I don't know where they are in the world, because Exploding Kittens, I think everybody ended up buying it on Kickstarter. Literally every household has one. If you didn't buy it yourself, just check around your house, open a few cupboards, you'll probably find it. It's an amazing game. From,
it really is
Matthew at the Oatmeal, with his unique idea of what the world is like, and the very simple premise that kittens do explode and you need to defuse them. So it's worth picking up. It always travels with me whenever I'm going to any sort of convention or tournament or something like that, because you can teach people how to play in about 5 minutes flat and start hammering through games at a rate of knots and really annoy your opponent whenever you've got the little kitty laser to defuse the bomb, or whatever it happens to be.
If you do need something to play and you do have a set of Exploding Kittens in the cupboard, which is more than likely, it is really worth giving it a go. I have played it myself and it is a lot of fun. It takes a minute to get used to, but it is a lot of fun, and it's well worth doing, as Ben said, on your Friday night. Got nothing better to do.
Sweet. Next up, Wargames Atlantic, peeps.
Oh yes. So I think I may have missed this when it came out originally, but Wargames Atlantic have now fully released their two newest plastic sets. So one of them is the set of British Riflemen for use during the Napoleonic Wars. And the second of them is their Resistance Partisan set for use during World War II. But going back to the, I'm making you jump all over the place, Lloyd, but going back to the British Rifleman, you get 32 miniatures in the box, which is just fantastic, obviously, from the guys at Wargames Atlantic. And there are loads and loads of options in here for making your little skirmishing warband, or maybe your full regiment ready to march out to do battle with the French. And as you can see, loads of different ways to pose them and arm them, and lots of head options and that kind of thing too. Particularly interesting as well if maybe you want to play something like the Silver Bayonet, which is coming out later this year from Osprey, which is all about Napoleonic stuff and werewolves and witches. Might also be good. But yeah, on the other side of things, you've also got the Resistance and the Partisans. So if you wanted to fight through the streets of Paris with your Resistance fighters against the Germans, or if you wanted to be setting up a Resistance somewhere else in Europe, maybe in Italy, for example, then you can dive in and play around with some more of these miniatures. Again, very customizable, lots of different poses, lots of weapon options. There's all sorts of things that they will have looted.
Who the heck's this guy?
I like to think that he's.
Those sunglasses or black eyes?
It's from sunglasses.
It's from
like 1950s French black and white art house sort of collective. So we could fight the Nazis, but we do not want to today. Today we are louche. And that's it,
If you put him in the black and white stripe, he'd look dead like a robber,
He would, yeah. That's what I thought. It was a bandana, like an eye bandana thing for like Burglar Bill or something. Yeah.
I have to take my glasses off because I have to have a look here because I'm old. But I don't actually think there are glasses on that miniature. I think the guy painted those on. Which I think was Matthew Leahy.
Yeah.
So, which one was it? Pop them back up again there, Lloydie.
Lo and behold, we do have some of these plastic kits, and we will be reviewing them in the future.
So we will.
So. Yeah.
So he's one of the beret wielders.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. No, none of them have glasses on.
Oh my God! So that's printed. That is just painted on.
Yeah. So he's decided he needed a pair of shades.
I still think he's Burglar Bill, like Free was suggesting.
Maybe he just isn't getting enough sleep.
I have been up all night fighting the Nazis. What have you been doing with your time? Not much, I see.
Black eyes, just simply a cry for help. That's all it is.
No, that's it. It's like a panda. I have to say, I'm really, really impressed with both sets. There will be full unboxings / reviews coming because I have a few niggles with them. Nothing major, but I always have niggles with things because I'm by nature a contrarian. But what I was really like to see with the French resistance in particular, I have a Polish resistance force already. Now, there are no strings of onions or garlic with any of these people or striped jumpers, so mostly they can
no
be,
shades.
Yeah, no shades. So they can probably end up, they won't have the right weaponry to use as Polish resistance if you're playing from the eastern side, but there's no reason why you can't. Weaponry aside, you're quite nice. They'd also do very well for pulp games if you're looking to play 1920s, 1940s. A few of the weapons are a bit, they are clearly 1940s weaponry. So you shouldn't probably have people running about with a Bren gun, but some of the grease guns you could get away with, and certainly the pistols and the Mauser are all good to go. So for people doing sort of gangster type games where you just want civilians, they do the job there quite nicely as well. Bit too well dressed to be Irish for the Revolutionary War, I have to say. Nobody
got
had
shoes for a start.
Yeah, they've got shoes. Nobody had outfits like that in Ireland on that stage. They're too casual, too up to date.
To say the beret is not the hat of choice for the Irish either.
No. I mean, even the leather. Nobody in Ireland had a leather coat. Where are you getting a leather coat from? Why's your coat so shiny? It's not going to be happening. But both sets are beautiful. There's some nice options specifically for the riflemen. There's a knock gun or a volley gun, so it's a 6-round musket, which is only in there.
This one here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's only in there because Harper in Bernard Cornwell's Sharp books uses one. Yeah. So people may remember Darrow O'Malley running about the place with essentially a 6-firing musket, just leveling ranks of French in one go. And that's the only reason that exists in there. But I'm fine with that because I have Mark Latham's Chosen Men from Osprey, which gives you the option to upgrade a sergeant in your rifleman force to have that, specifically again to be Harper. And there's even, I don't think they show on any of the pictures, but there's actually a little Darrow O'Malley like sort of little curly-haired Irish type fella who can be wielding the knock gun if you want to do that. So you can do your Sharp with the plastic set beautifully, which is really nice. They've skipped them. There's not one of them there looking like Dara.
What about kit bashing between this and their other sets then, Jerry? Because I know they've been releasing a wide variety of different types of sets.
They have now. We haven't seen anything else World War II from them yet. We've only seen World War One. Germans and French are coming, so a bit early for that, but I imagine with World Ablaze we're going to see some other things. They are also doing a large army build, I think it's Prussian force, which are one-piece miniatures for Napoleonics.
One piece?
Well, the heads are separate. And I think maybe occasionally an arm is separate, but more or less it's instead of 30 guys in a box, it's going to be 60 guys in a box. So it's get your
making quickly ranked armies.
Yeah.
So something like that.
Yeah, exactly, something like that.
This is more Wargames, or this is more Warlord Russians.
Yeah. So that style of thing. So I haven't had a chance to see the Prussians in the flesh yet, but when they do make any of the boxes, they're always scaled so that you can kit bash between them, so much so that when they did the Eisenkern that we looked at last week, they've actually reduced them in size from Mark's original scaling so it fits with all their other sci-fi. So I imagine all of these will be interchangeable, and as the range sort of grows and expands, that you'll be able to do things like mix in the partisan French with stuff from World War II and Boxer Rebellion or whatever. It'll be interesting to see where they go, because they never take we're going to do Americans, British and Germans route for World War II, or we're going to do the main line, because everybody does those main, and so they tend to move at the edges of things. So the fact that they've gone, we're going to go into World War II, and the first thing we're going to release is resistance, civilian resistance fighters for, it says French, but you could use them for Polish, or you could use them for Dutch if you want to do some sort of stuff around Arnhem or whatever it happens to be. So I imagine the next thing we see won't be another middle of the road release either.
I think they're doing Dacians, or they at least showed off the box art for Dacians, I think, coming up soon.
They did. They've also got some, I think, either Byzantine or late Romano-British stuff coming as well, because they've shown a bit of artwork for that too, mostly to annoy Lloyd, I assume.
Plus, lots of stuff. I think they're doing, is it Aztecs or Mayans are coming up as well? So
Aztecs are coming because they're doing conquistadors, so they want to have the requisite forces to bounce off each other there. But again, they look at it and go, everybody else is doing Italian wars in the 1600s. What if we go to the New World and do Jackal Warriors? Boxer Rebellion.
They're doing that too.
1900 Boxer Rebellion's coming, so people can see Tiger Warriors and stuff. And you're going, sure.
In their onesies.
In their Tigger onesies, which is exactly where Tigger came from, as far as I'm aware. They're being totally different.
So fantastic stuff coming up from Wargames Atlantic there. Go and check out those new plastic sets as they are available to buy right now. I will maybe be getting some of the Riflemen to definitely do Silver Bayonet, but there we go.
You just want to shout, I hate that.
Well, you've got to, if you're going to be playing a game in the Napoleonics, you've got to be prepared to shout and bollocks as often as possible, because that's what Sean Bean does, man. That's right. Yeah.
Remind me at some point to show you my Sean Bean miniature.
Definitely. Moving on from the Napoleonics, we've also got a little bit of a board game announcement from the guys at PSC Games. So they have joined forces with the guys at Paradox to bring the very well-loved PC game Prison Architect to the tabletop with a new board game called Cardboard County Penitentiary. Can you see what they did there? This is going to be coming to Kickstarter very soon in May, I believe. And it's going to be a 1 to 4 player game where you effectively play out the sort of experience of the PC game on the tabletop. What you'll be doing is it's kind of split into 2 kind of phases, effectively, where you've got a bidding phase to begin with, where you will bid on different tiles to build your prison, as well as stats cards and policy cards and that kind of thing, very similar to people that have played Prison Architect. And then you'll then use the construction phase to build your specific prison and try and make it as, I want to say luxurious, but that seems like the wrong word for a prison. You're effectively trying to make it to suit the prisoners that you're trying to bring into your
like that dude from Porridge who has all the cool stuff in his cell.
Basically. Well, interesting. One of the things about Prison Architect is that you can choose which prisoners you want to bring in, and they will give you certain amounts of victory points depending on their kind of level of danger kind of thing. But obviously, if you bring in a dangerous criminal, you're going to have to make sure that they can't escape from your prison. So you're going to be building all the walls, all the cells, all the amenities like cafeterias and showers and that kind of thing, dealing with events as they pop up and all that kind of thing too. Seems like a really, really good mix of both kind of like fun with kind of head-scratching puzzle layouts and that kind of thing as well. So I'm a big fan of.
Are you actually trying to escape from the prison?
No. You're building the prison. You're the warden.
Oh, I'm not just some dude in the prison going, sneak me in a TV, sneak me in a Snickers.
I mean, if you want to sit there and draw a map of the prison all over your body and sit there pretending that you're trying to get out of it, then you can do that. But
that works too, yeah.
Got an expansion there.
Yeah.
The spin-off. I'm curious about it because, obviously, all you want is white-collar criminals. You just want the creme de la creme of American big business in there who are just going to sit quietly and do nothing and not be any hassle. But do you get more money if you bring in, real vicious people?
The thing. Yeah, if you bring in the deadly guys, then you'll obviously get more victory points, but it'll be easier for them to escape and that kind of thing.
Am I building the prison and you're in the prison, or are you also building a prison?
All the players are building their own prisons, trying to get the most points out of it.
Somebody's trying to keep Jeff Bezos in. Somebody else is that lunatic from Texas who built the wire prison in the middle of the desert on the grounds that if anybody escapes, they're dead from exposure anyway.
There we go.
And then somebody else is really nice and builds a Norwegian prison where everybody's really good and rehabilitated at the end, which makes no sense.
A superhero edition of this at some point where you can build plastic cages for keeping like Magneto and stuff in.
Exactly. Well, man,
to be fair, Mr. T is on the front cover of that
He is.
Hard work they've done. I'm not entirely certain what Mr. T has done. Is this before the A-team break out?
What I quite like about this as well is that because it's kind of tile laying, it's kind of got that sort of solo game mentality. Can obviously be played by one person, but you're kind of focusing on building your own game space. But the bidding phase means that not only are you trying to get the things that you want, but you're also trying to snipe the things that your other players around the table want as well.
So is it a bit like playing Football Manager, except you're managing a prison and you're trading prisoners instead of football players?
I guess you could say that, Lloyd, if you wanted to football it up. But
yeah, we won't know exactly until we see the whole kit and caboodle. I imagine being able to corner the market and barbed wire is particularly good if you're running a white-collar, low-impact, minimum security place, and the other fella's gone all in on maximum security and can't keep anybody. They're constantly just going over the wall and away because there's no way of keeping them inside.
And that's the competitive element of the game, which is on sort of layered on top of it, which I think is really awesome. So yeah, really excited to see what they do with this one. And PSC Games have got some interesting plans for more stuff in the future as well. So watch out for that too.
You're just thinking about building H blocks now, aren't you, Lloyd?
Yes.
I'm thinking about pits full of snakes.
Snake pits. Also,
are you taking the Dark Age Ragnar Lothbrok approach to? Oh dear.
What's up next, peeps?
The Pride of Nekomata are roaring to get into the tabletop with the newest pre-order with Lost World Exodus from War Cradle Studios. So this new detachment, 35mm set, introduces us to the residents of Rishuri Island, named the Ainu, maintaining a peaceful life, respecting Earth and nature themselves. They are a very zen. They don't look very zen, but they are.
Yeah, the bottom right guy there, who looks not dissimilar to Wolverine, looks particularly zen, doesn't he?
Yeah.
He looks like you've set foot on the wrong island, bub. Zen.
Because that nature, that bond that they have, calls the Rishuri people and their environment, and a small number of them, of the Ainu, that were given the ability to transform their bodies into a feline combination of man and beast.
Very cool.
Yeah, it is very, very cool. So what I am actually loving about Lost World Exodus at the moment is their beastly releases. So we had Mr. Ears back at the back end of last year, and he was part of the Soul Hunters, and I really personally loved Mr. Ears, and I love the Warrior Nation from Wild West Exodus.
Oh yeah.
And this has really caught my eye because of the stunning animal miniatures, as it were, and incorporating that, and how Lost World Exodus has hooked me in with these beautiful resin casted interesting characters. And this is what I love about Lost World Exodus and Wild West Exodus, is there's such a background story and lore to these characters, and it all does come together.
Yeah, it's really nice to see that kind of element of
this is the
lore exposed and stuff. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah. But yeah, I think the other thing as well, obviously, from like a lore standpoint, it's really nice to see them going off and doing more stuff for Lost World Exodus. But also from a painting and hobbyist perspective, these kind of give you an opportunity to kind of maybe step away from the metallics and that kind of thing that you may feel from like steampunky Wild West Exodus, and instead embrace a lot more kind of light, bright, vibrant colors as well into the mix, and do that nice transition between their kind of human skin, as it were, and the more animalistic parts of them. Yeah. It seems like a really nice opportunity to get stuck into things like blending and all sorts of stuff there too. Very cool.
Do we know whereabouts they are worldwide? Because up until now we have mostly seen just we've mostly been seeing the Wild West Exodus
sort of North American centric stuff.
Yeah. But I know obviously we've seen the Polish Winged Hussar. It's a year ago or so, whenever it was going to be a convention model. remember when we had those? So it's nice to see another faction come out that seems to be moving away from North America into other places. It has a very oriental feel there.
It does.
The sort of the weaponry, the katana. I'm pretty sure somebody had a pair of nunchucks.
What I love about Lost World Exodus is just because it's not out yet, it doesn't mean that you can't use these models, doesn't mean you can't paint them. Play with them, because these feline friendlies are playable with Wild West Exodus as well. So you can get familiar with their playing style and finesse them on the American frontier and join.
Brilliant. Yeah.
Wild West Exodus.
Fantastic stuff. Really like seeing those. Blah, wow, I was stunned into silence by Wolverines again.
The last one was very Wily Kit / Wily Cat.
Yes,
although it may just be the hair just sort of zipping up at the end.
And that's available to pre-order at Wayland then.
Yes, that's available to pre-order at Wayland. There's a lot of FLGS stores that are stocking this as well, but you can pre-order it at Wayland.
A little bit of a quick news update as well from the guys at North Star. So we have talked about Stargrave during the episode, but the new plastic kits are coming very, very soon, sort of end of April, beginning of May. And the guys over at North Star previewed a couple of different, three of the kits that are coming out and some of the kind of characters that you can build with it. So each of these sets is going to come with 20 miniatures within it. And as you might imagine from a lot of the North Star sets, these are going to be packed with options for heads, bodies, arms, weapons, accessories, everything you could want to start building your crew. Now, talking about the individual boxes themselves, you've got the ship crew, which is the one that you're seeing there. So if you want to build your space traders and your explorers and adventurers, then you've got that. Then you've got the mercenary set. So if you're maybe looking to add a little bit more sort of gung-ho options, maybe some bounty hunters, maybe some ex-soldiers, you've got those ones there too, which are very cool.
Badger at the front, yeah.
Badger.
Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah. I'm already sold. I'm going to make all my crew animals now. That's going to be the way forward.
Like this guy here from
everybody's so focused on the chimp that they missed the badger.
Chimp's amazing because like Planet of the Apes type stuff.
Yeah, straight out of Planet of the Apes, that one.
Yeah. And then the third set is your set of troopers. So these are your sort of security guards, bodyguards, soldiers, that kind of thing that you want to throw into your planets, maybe defending facilities and that kind of thing. Now, obviously, all of these can be mixed and matched to make the crew that you really want to go for. So if you wanted to make a highly alien crew, then you can go and do that. If you wanted to make them more militaristic, you can go down that route. If you wanted to make them just traders who have happened to walk into the disaster that is a game of Stargrave as you get jobbed by other gangs and pirates and that kind of thing, then you can also go down that route as well.
It's funny because I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, if Futurama was a war game.
Yes, you could definitely go down that route.
Zoidberg would definitely fit in that.
He would, yeah. But yeah, loads of customization options when it comes to these, and there's also going to be some metal miniatures in the future as well. But yeah, really, really cool.
Very interested to see how they actually turn out, because the interesting thing, or the nice thing that they've always done with the plastic kits is to make them all interchangeable, which means they're all interchangeable with each other, but they should also be all interchangeable with the fantasy kits and the demon kits and the cultists and the humans. So you can have a bunch of fur-clad hillbilly trappers, because as we learned from Firefly, just because you're in space doesn't mean you're not going to find fur-clad hillbilly trappers. It's all depends on what you happen to end up with on your world.
I particularly like their cultist sprues as well.
Cultist sprues are nice.
Smack some of these sci-fi heads on them. You'll have like deserty sort of nomadic,
post-apocalyptic, like almost like Tusken Raider sort of sand people. It would look ideal with those.
Maybe go down the Dead Space route and have them as kind of crazed cultists and that kind of thing. Yeah, very awesome.
Yep.
Moving on, our last news item, because there's been a heck of a lot of news.
It has been loads of interesting things to talk about this week, but we finish off with a little bit of Games Workshop news on both the Age of Sigmar and 40k front, in that Be'lakor, the first Demon Prince, is returning to the mortal realms in the grimdark future with a huge new model and a metal soundtrack to boot as well, if you watch the trailer. But this is quite the, as I've termed it, glow up for Be'lakor. You will hopefully have seen the original miniature of him, which probably comes up to about his waist now. But this is a massive new version of Be'lakor, which is very in keeping with the original design of him, whilst also embracing the larger-than-life, over-the-top nature of Games Workshop at the moment. As I was saying, he can be used in both Age of Sigmar, alongside the new Broken Realms storyline book, which is coming out, including the sort of destroyed Chaos Warrior on his base, Or you can go down the other route and unleash him on the grim dark future of Warhammer 40,000, in which case you can swap out the little dead Chaos Warrior for a Primaris Lieutenant, because who doesn't like stepping on Primaris Lieutenants? Including
Depends whether or not I'm in my bare feet.
No, well, yes, true, yes. It's a bit like stepping on a D4, yeah. But yeah, impressive wingspan, impressive model, really like the detail on it. Sort of goes back to kind of classic Warhammer in many ways. Really, really stunning miniature, and I can see a lot of people already excited to pick this up in the comments and that kind of thing as well.
Look at those skulls everywhere. Skulls.
Yeah,
That's what everywhere you look, you see something new.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
But everywhere, skulls, peeps. Everywhere. Actually, I think I got to apologize to Games Workshop because I give them a lot of grief over skulls. A lot of the time. But I've done a lot of like World War One sort of research recently, and it seems to me that everyone plastered the uniforms in bloody skulls.
Yeah.
Because they weren't allowed to put a rat's anus on their skull.
It makes you the bad guys. That's the way you do it.
That's how you know.
That's it. I thought that was a World War II thing, but no, World War One, skulls everywhere.
Russians were particularly fond of it.
So, yeah.
But as I say,
Workshop, apparently it was a thing to stick skulls over everything, so there you go. Get out of jail free card now.
As I was saying,
give you grief about it next week.
Oh, there we go. Yeah. As I was saying, this will be part of the new Broken Realms expansion for Age of Sigmar, and I am really, really hoping that good old Be'lakor is going to be sticking it to his Chaos friends as much as the other Grand Alliances, because Be'lakor has no real love of the Chaos Gods and the other Chaos powers as well. So Archaon may be in for a little bit of trouble. He might be the Ever-Chosen, but Be'lakor's a badass. So
that's it. You don't need to love anybody when you're that size.
Exactly.
Love yourself.
It's like I was watching a bit of Rocky 3, and it's like
if he dies, he dies.
No, it's like Stallone's up fighting Hulk Hogan, and it's only when you pit Stallone against Hulk Hogan that you realize how big Hulk Hogan is. He jumps up on him, and he looks like he's a tiny wee person trying to strangle him at some point. Yeah, exactly. So I think it's pretty much when you get to this size, you can rule the roost and not worry about anything.
True. Yeah. So yeah, really awesome new miniature. Really fascinated to see where the story goes next for Age of Sigmar. Been really, been a big fan of seeing where the sort of developing narrative is for that.
And loads of my favorite things: skulls.
Skulls.
Love it when the Games Workshop plaster it in skulls.
Yeah.
Flippin' love that. Love it. Okay, peeps, time to dip into the world of 3D printing, and I believe we're going to be talking about a company that we once highlighted as an Indie of the Week, MOMminiaturas, isn't it?
Yes.
I always say MOMminiaturas, but it's
MOMminiaturas, yes. So this is a
Mo.
Or Mo,
yeah. Miniatures.
This is a Spanish chap who has been doing some fantastic work in the past, sculpting stuff by hand and getting it out to us in lovely resin. But they have also now taken to doing a little bit of digital sculpting and have set up a Patreon as well, where they have been showing off some fantastic pieces. Now, no one will be surprised.
I see how this has got into the show.
Exactly.
Well, because of the sculpted stones with holes in them, which are very Viking based.
Yeah. I'm
like
sure.
Saga.
Specifically for you, Lloyd. But no, they have been working on some really, really nice pieces for the month of March, which include a selection of elves and dwarves done in a very classic Warhammer style, but with a few tweaks in here and there to try and bring them into the kind of mortal realms as well. Like, for example, you may have seen across some of these high elves that whilst they do look very classically Warhammer, they do have a few elements to them that are a little bit horny in places.
No.
So there are a couple of bits and pieces here and there that would make them transition quite nicely between the mortal realms and the
Where's the horns?
There, look.
Where?
The little headdress thing.
They're rocking the Oriental style headdresses, but not to such an extent that it offends us. Which is good. Well done, Mom. Mom knows best.
Yeah.
See?
But as well as the elves, they've also done a selection of dwarves as well. So they've done them with spellcasters and shamans and that kind of thing. As any good dwarf knows, that the only type of magic is entrusted to runes And that's the way you cast spells, not by waving your hands around. Jeez, God, of course
They
not.
don't need to cast spells anyway. Look at these guns.
I know,
He's
exactly.
got guns and
know.
grenades. He's sorted.
Yeah. Black powder magic,
Mhm.
which is actually the premise of a book series that exists out there. But anyway, that's a different story. As well as the dwarves and the elves, you've also got a couple of incidental NPCs if you wanted to dive in and do a little bit of Warhammer roleplay. Maybe you wanted to play as a tavern keep or a merchant, then you've got some options there too. I like to think of it as what Gotrek and Felix turned into once they'd finished their adventures and hadn't gone to the ends of the earth to fight Grimnir.
Right. Reckon Felix just retired to run a bar,
Yes.
help people by his adventures, while Gotrek was just cashing it in.
Exactly, yeah.
He
was a merchant back before a merchant and an engineer before he took the Slayer Oath. So, but yeah, really awesome sculpts for both the dwarves and the elves there. And they've done a couple of incidental kind of terrain pieces as well that kind of have that Nordic theme, but obviously that's tied directly to dwarves as well. Quite a lot in kind of.
There's a Viking sunwheel.
Yeah. Maybe also very good for those people who are setting up a little bit of a Skyrim style tabletop on the table and that kind of thing. So you could use that terrain as some of the waypoints and the kind of what are they the sign markers that you could find in Skyrim that kind of gave you bonuses and stuff. So you've never played Skyrim? Okay, yeah.
No, you haven't.
Yeah. Jeez.
I played Morrowind.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Once.
What?
It's the same, isn't it? No.
How do you know all the memes, Jerry? There are so many memes.
That's a can of worms you haven't opened yet. It really is.
I'm aware of memes.
So MOMminiaturas on Patreon right now. You can subscribe and get your hands on not only what you see there as part of the March preview, but also there's a few starter kind of like starter bits and pieces that you pick up as well. And because it's part of a kind of larger subscription style system, you can feed back on what's been worked on.
Is this their first real step into it, though, on the 3D side on a Patreon?
Yeah, well, I think they've had it up for 2 months so far, I think. So there was some stuff that they revealed in February, and then March has been the sort of newest release of stuff. But yeah, it's very recent in terms of what they've done in the past. This is their first big step into 3D sculpting and that kind of thing. So
sorry, I was going to let that one go, but it's very recent in terms of what they've done in the past. Is it just a great tagline? I don't suppose you know whether or not these are going to go onto their physical web store. They don't mention that on the Patreon, do they?
I don't think there's a plan to do it quite yet. I know that they've still been releasing traditional miniatures alongside whatever they're doing in the 3D sculpting realm, but I don't see a reason why they wouldn't do them in the future. It just depends on whether or not MOMminiaturas can get them printed in resin to then sell, I suppose,
because
rather
we've
than
seen
the
that
normal
with
casting process. So.
Yeah, we've seen that with some other. I mean, Raging Heroes, obviously their patron is very expansive, but they've gone. There's so many things we can do in a physical version. Yeah. And then there's some of the stuff we just physically can't do.
Because we couldn't send it to you.
Yeah, the cost would be prohibitive. Making the molds would be ridiculous. So there's this balance whenever they do their physical releases post Patreon. But it'd be nice to see. I mean, for crusty old people like myself who don't understand technology, rather than just stand there and scream at the screen for a while, it'd be nice if some of these things, because some of that looks like it could be available to old people like myself, rather than kids with their ones and zeros.
The other way, of course, it could go is that you could get some 3D printed and then use them as the basis for casts, and just doing it that way as well.
Looking at their website, I wouldn't be surprised if at some point in the future they become available, because look, they've got these, which are very similar miniatures already over on the store.
Well, yeah.
In fact, she was there, wasn't she?
Well, I think the ones we're seeing now are newer versions of these classic ones.
Oh, right, okay.
Oh no, that one's exactly the same.
Yeah.
There we go. Oh, yeah.
Okay. So
you can get them.
You can. So for people who aren't down with the kids,
you can get them physically.
What can I say? But down with kids.
I'm talking out my arse. There you go.
They're very reasonably priced as well.
Yeah, I picked up a couple of their miniatures. Unsurprisingly,
really? I say that because I can't see exactly matches for everything we've looked at. But
Thuriel was definitely there, and the Elf Sorceress, I'm pretty sure, was there.
Yeah. I'd be surprised if they didn't then, because they already have a production setup
Yeah.
and a postal setup. It would be silly not to just go right, and we can also do this as a sort of a physical alternative.
Some of it, like I say, with Raging Heroes, it comes down to they do things that would be impossible or cost prohibitive for them to actually physically produce.
But not if they did a resin 3D print of it and then just posted the resin 3D.
Well, that's
So we'll see. It'll be worth keeping an eye on because they do have some lovely miniatures.
As I say, their miniatures are very nice. So,
look, there's Felix and Gotrek.
Yeah. Or not Felix and not Gotrek.
Yeah.
So
I have 4 of them from the old days when they were in lead.
Oh man, I love
not from Mom.
Miniatures.
You understand from GW.
Man, I really wish I had the cool one of him with where Felix got the sword up like that.
Yes,
Gotrek has got his axe as well. Oh man, I keep looking on eBay for them all the time as well. So.
Yeah, right, you reminiscers.
Yeah,
I'm going to move it on before you steal the show with all this reminiscing.
we lousy kids,
for goodness sake,
wanting to move forward.
So,
things in the past were better.
Yeah, things in the past are better than what they seem in the future. For the now and the yesterday. There we go. That's the saying.
Did you win one of our prizes? Find out on our prize claim center over at OnTableTop.com. Here we list all our previous prizes and those who have won. If you see your username, fill out the form to claim your prize. All prizes must be claimed within 30 days.
Kickstarter-wise, I'm going to introduce one from Mythic Games. So they are back for a very short campaign. That's just over 10 days in total. It'll be 7 days from when you see this. But we're returning
almost a week.
Almost a week. So we're returning to Super Fantasy Brawl Round 2. Ding, 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 ding. Which comes with new champions, new expansions, and also a chance to dive in and pick up everything that existed as part of Round 1 as well. But Jerry, you had a chat with Leo about this.
I did have a chat with Leo about this. And I suppose first things first is it's important to note this is not season 2.
Mm-hmm.
This is round 2. So the event happened, remain indoors. And that sort of put the kibosh on where they were planning to go with Super Fantasy Brawl, which was this idea for a arena-based board game that you could plot out and play on a regular basis. In a tournament style, people would have sort of miniatures that they could draft in, they could rebalance. All of these things would obviously be supported by sort of weekly or monthly playthroughs at local game stores. The event kicked in and put the kibosh on all of that. So rather than wait until next year when things open up again and leave the people who backed the original Super Fantasy Brawl sort of sitting, they decided to push on and do a round 2 for season 1. It will introduce 9 new miniatures in 3 new factions. So we have like the Mental Mayhem, the
so it's
Hot Tricks.
Yeah, Hot Trick, Mental Might, and Radiant Authority.
And there we go. That's the bunny. So these three new sort of, not factions per se, because they're mixes of miniatures, but the 3 new expansions can be played alongside the original sort of 15 models. You can also dive in and pick up the original game and the original models that came out from the first one. But the interesting part of this is the core set this time round is not a Kickstarter version. They're leaning into the fact that they want this to be played in stores. So the core set will be the retail version that will be going into stores towards the end of the year. So I know a lot of people were wondering what was happening with it. They'd originally said it was going to be a retail release and then it got stalled because of the event. But this is essentially a sort of a springboard to launch the retail version. So retailers can get involved with this. People who are interested in playing can get involved. And they've got a very small, simple Kickstarter where it is just the expansions plus the original bits and pieces. I think the only thing unique to the Kickstarter will be the foil cards. So when your characters level up, they flip over, and to make life easier for people attempting to see what they're facing on the battlefield, you have these lovely foil designs. But otherwise, everything in here is stuff that they're looking to push into retail and to push going forward. And to that end, they're actually on several tabletop simulators online, and they're going to be using the rest of sort of this year and early next year to play events and tournaments and to collect data from those and see what heroes get overused, who's spamming what isn't quite up to snuff, and then just take the meta and twist it and turn it back into sort of a more balanced feel. And this is good because when you start to play tournament-based games and draft games like this, you want the meta to be balanced on a regular basis. So whether it's annually or every couple of years, whatever, I'm not sure what way they're going to go yet. I don't think they really know either because nothing's really been played to date to give them the information to do that. But this is going to be the springboard for the rest of this year. Get people to get the game, start playing games either online or locally when they can. Add in these additional figures, so they're going to be up to 24. So season 1 will essentially be complete, and I think this is going to be more or less the style of what they want to do going forward. So when they launch season 2, you know that there's going to be that sort of amount of figures, and you can depend on this sort of cycle coming. So seasons will refresh the game, add new players in, add more to the lore, because there's going to be a certain amount of lore and fluff that will accompany this. And some of the new figures that we've seen for round 2 are similar races or similar aspects that we've already seen from the first Kickstarter and from the core set. So they're going to sort of expand on that, and where we've got a couple of cat-based warriors. The original one was very much like a Chinese warrior. The new one from round 2 is more like a Shaolin monk. So they've got this theme, but not all of the miniatures coming out and not all of the characters will be the same type within that theme. So just because somebody's a hard-hitting puncher now doesn't mean we won't see another one from the same race occur later on, who might be a healer or a support character or that sort of thing.
It reminds me very much of kind of PC well, not MMO, but MOBA style,
yes,
kind of thing. So sort of League of Legends, Dota kind of thing.
That is exactly what they're going for. So, for example, Darren there from the original is actually the half-blood child of one of the new people who's appearing, who's a tyrant king, and he's not happy that his daughter is running a rebellion against him, and he's not a pleasant person, but at the same time, apart from being a blisteringly tough fighter, he can also sort of heal himself when other people get injured, because they should die for their king. So it's fascinating to see where they're going. They obviously have a very unique cartoony MOBA style. It has that sort of tabletop game meets digital game feel behind it, and because you're playing in a constricted environment, you're playing in these arenas, you're trying to get the points scored as quick as possible to win. Then there's King Alistair there himself. Then it means you're playing these games very quickly, so if a quick turnover, you can play 2 or 3 games in the same space of time that somebody may play a full tabletop war game. So hopefully the turnover with this is relatively quick, and it means that we'll start to see things develop within the actual game itself, where people putting together their forces starts to settle into a rut, and then just as it's starting to settle, then Mythic can come in and shake the ant nest up and see what happens by buffing or hitting them with the hammer if they need to be hit with the nerf hammer to bring things back in line. So fascinating to see, and they're already well funded.
Do we have Let's Plays and stuff of Super Fantasy Brawl?
Oh yes.
Oh yeah.
And they'll still be relevant now then, because
they are. Yeah, the game has not changed in any way, shape, or form. These are just additional characters dropped in there. So if you want to see what an Alpha Striker would do when given the option of Alpha Striking, then you can see what Justin has done with Super Fantasy Brawl in the past, and you can be fairly certain that whatever he's done will probably get hit with the nerf hammer fairly hard whenever time sort of rebalances in the future. So yeah. A week left on it, and like I say, you're not going to see massive stretch goals because they did want to do it. This was just to try and keep the community going, support who's already out there, and prep for us coming out the back of the event. Remain indoors.
Well funded indeed. One more to get through before the end of the show, peeps. What have we got?
Next, we have got the newest Kickstarter from Everdell. We've got Newleaf, Mistwood, and the complete collection, which has got only 13 days left.
Now,
It's no surprise to me that they smashed their target within the first 24 hours.
this obviously must be a popular game, because when I bring the page up, you will see like £1 million odd quid already backed for this.
Yeah, they have absolutely smashed it. Everdell, on its original release, had me hooked in the first place, if you didn't quite catch my previous discussion of animal-themed games and miniatures. But this was very much up my street. So the new Kickstarter, Everdell Newleaf, Mistwood, and the complete collections are now available. So you can return to the beautiful world of Everdell with 2 new expansions and grab yourself a hefty storage box as well, with some accessories, or be wild. And it is tempting for me, even though I do have them, and you can grab yourself
I see a train.
Yeah, see. Trains.
So is it Woodland Train Simulator, or what is this game?
Yes, it is. You should just go ahead and hit back this product. Don't bother reading anymore.
Oh, there is a train track.
The new expansions just allow players to just embark in brand new pastel-coloured opportunities with new worker meeples and additional station board as well. You can have visitors enter your town for the chance of extra bonuses, and Mistwood expansion introduces you to the devious Nightweave and her plot to take over Everdell with her arachnid compadres.
So, for anyone who doesn't know what it is, like me, am I building a town? What am I doing?
Well, with it, I will let Free delve into it a little bit more because you've played it more than I have. But the kind of basics of Everdell is that you are trying to create your own little settlement and grow the village of Everdell effectively, bringing in, so during the game, cards will be placed in front of you, and then you'll pay resources and that kind of thing to bring these cards into your hand and lay them out into a tableau in front of you, and that will grow your little tiny settlement and give you extra points and that kind of thing. So it's a really nice little card game with beautiful artwork across everything.
It's a streamlined worker placement game. So it's the world, and the artwork brings it to life realistically. So it's the building mechanic where the players will build the city, and you have your villagers and you build your construction. So it's really, really easy to learn, and the mechanics are really, really easy to pick up as well. The storage box itself, that's what kind of I had my eyes to, and that's what I am tempted to have a look at the complete edition. It allows you to put all of your games, all of the expansions, the accessories, and the components in a very tidy and organised manner. So it is quite, there is a lot of different steps.
You need to keep scrolling. You're not even touching the sides on this one.
Look at this going, so it's like Watership Down, but in one that doesn't go quite so dark.
No, it's not. No, there's not quite as much barbed wire and screaming dogs in this one.
Not an awkward seagull telling you to piss off halfway through.
Yeah.
It's more Redwall than yeah.
So I mean the original Everdell, when you go further down, you'll see it's like there we go. So you've got the wooden tree and the central board. In fact, that's a great picture. Just keep that picture there.
Yeah.
So that our initial game is the middle, and then the top, the northern part with the tree, and then that was Everdell, and that was your standard worker placement. But as they've done expansions, the east, west, and southern boards add on. So the ones I've seen has been Everdell, and then the Pearl
Brook.
Pearl Brook. Yeah, I don't know where I got Pearl River from. It exists in something, but it always and that added the otters and the water to the Everdell world. So they've built this, and it jigsaws together when you're playing, so you can almost tailor your game depending on the amount of time you have to play by adding these supplemental expansions to it. So if you've got more of an evening to play through and you've got several hours, then you can go, well, we're going to play through a more grand vision of Everdell and have these various aspects added to it. If you've got less time, then you just go, well, maybe we'll just play Everdell itself, or just play one of the expansions and then choose where you want to go with it.
Sweet.
Yeah, it is super easy to pick up, and the mechanics are really aren't complicated whatsoever. So if you have been eyeing up the beautiful aesthetic of Everdell, here is your chance. It really is your chance to get started. And especially if you look at the collector's box, in all honesty, this is a lot more reasonably priced than I thought it would be.
Exactly. Yeah.
That the individual expansions, they cost around about £30 to £40, and if you get everything, including all the expansions, the base game, the collector's box, all in one, I'm convincing myself here, aren't I? This is what
Pretty much.
I'm convincing myself. But if you get it all together, now is the perfect time to pick up Everdell because you get everything you need from start to finish within that universe.
I gotta say, loving the artwork. I mean,
It's
Artwork's sublime. It really is.
it's got a very, what is it, Toad Hall? What is that show?
Wind in the Willows.
Wind
in the Willows.
Yeah, sort of feel to it.
Messing about on the river. Yeah.
With Badger and Toad and stuff. I
would also say like the actual components for the game were amazing to begin with, but with the kind of additional stuff they added in for the collector's edition, collector's complete collection, sorry, you've also got things like the tree, instead of it being cardboard, is now wood, which is just great. And they've really gone to the effort of building on all the kind of components.
A
building
tree.
A
a tree made of wood. Who would have thought it? Yeah.
Right.
And I just want to point this out because this is something that has always excited me in a weird way whenever I've ever come anywhere close to Everdell, is there's little tiny berries that you get in the game, and they actually are squidgy, like little tiny real berries. It's amazing. It's just fantastic. That's all I can say.
Can't argue with that.
This is what happens when there's two people talking about board games. They talk about the squishy berries.
Well, there you go.
Trees.
You want to get...
I've even got, a bajillion Birds and Badgers miniatures that I can put down on the card to represent all the different characters. So there we go.
There you go. If you want to get people into your board game, make sure they've got something to squeeze. And on that note, I'm going to wrap us up. It's been great going through all the gaming stuff, but we have another show that we're going to be bringing to you on the Sunday called the Cult of Games XLBS show, and we're going to be sitting down. I don't know what we're going to be talking about this week. Last week we did an awful lot of hobby. I think I might squeeze in a bit of hobby. I think Warren's talking about a rule set or something he's working on. We're going to be looking at that. But until next week, peeps, happy gaming.
Go ahead and check out our other content on screen now. And while you're at it, why not hit subscribe and remember to ding our dong. Go on, you know you want to click it. Go on.